Santa Clara. Alex set the scene here for day 9 for the Niners for us.
Yeah, Andrew, I think it's a beginning certainly of a new era here with a new head coach and a new GM and John Lynch, and just totally different energy than there was around this organization last year at this time. I think it's trying to pick the right words. Hopeful, I guess, but not overly hopeful. I think the 49ers know that they have a lot of work ahead of them, but I think they have a lot of competition that they're seeing in the field. Even a lot of the guys that they've brought in, unrestricted free agents that have come in, and different pieces of this puzzle that they're putting together. I think the one thing that this roster really lacked last year was depth, and they weren't able to create competition at a number of positions because they didn't have that depth. And I think now you're looking at a lot of these positions and there's competition all over, and there are not necessarily starters slated in. I think these players, Kyle Shanahan is going to make them earn their job. Even Reuben Foster, you mentioned I talked to John Lynch a little earlier today. He is positively in love with Reuben Foster, a guy that he really wanted. They would have taken him, you guys, had they kept that number 2 overall pick. John Lynch was prepared to take Reuben Foster at number 2. Of course, they got him at the end of the first round, but just thrilled to have him here. And John Lynch saying that he has been all over the field in training camp, that he has a great attitude. To use Lynch's words, he said he has a special energy and a magnetism around him. So I asked him, is he expecting him to make an impact early for this team in the season? And John's answer to that was it's going to be hard to keep him off the field, but that Kyle Shanahan is really going to make him earn it and work for it, because he says that is going to help Reuben Foster in the long run. Of course, the pick that they picked up at the top of the draft, Solomon Thomas, they're also equally as excited about. But Andrew, he's been in a unique situation, kind of like Christian McCaffrey coming out of Stanford, where they're on the quarter system. He was not able to partake in the OTAs. So Lynch saying that when Solomon showed up here on day 1 of training camp, it was truly day 1 with the organization. That's put him a little bit behind in terms of learning. Of course, though, a smart kid coming out of Stanford, and John Lynch has no doubt that he'll be up to speed quickly.
You'll see him out there wearing number 94, Solomon Thomas. Their first of 2 first-round picks with Reuben Foster. I love how John Lynch, Charlie speaking to a professor here. You're a professor at George Mason. John Lynch and Solomon Thomas actually took a class together when Lynch went back to get his postgraduate degree, which is awesome. And now one's the boss and the other is the player. They're working together with the 49ers. What do you think of this front 7, Charlie?
I think it's going to be hard to run on him. Foster slipped in the draft because of some injury concerns and some other concerns. I had him as a top 10 player. Luke Kuechly, that kind of ability. I think him and Kuechly, I think he probably was a little more physical than Kuechly in college. Kuechly a bit more athletic. But this guy can cover and be a 3-down linebacker. So, he's going to start opening day. If he doesn't start opening day, he has to be hurt. The defensive line, here's the positive, and here's what I want to watch. The body types are all pretty much the same. They're all physical run defenders. Solomon Thomas, Earl Mitchell, DeForest Buckner, a first-round draft choice in 16.
Eric Armstead,
a first-round draft choice in 15. So when they go to nickel, that's where I want to see where do they line people up. Now, Solomon Thomas in college was a very good run defender and an excellent inside pass rusher. Andrew, as far as being over the guard. Didn't have a lot of success rushing over the tackle. Now, at the combine, he ran much faster than I thought and many people thought he could run, so maybe he can rush from the outside. We know he can rush from the inside, and that's what Buckner and Armstead, I think, could do too. So what happens outside, is that going to be Ahmad Brooks? Is it going to be Aaron Lynch? But they can stop the run. One last thing on the front 7. When you're building a football team, you're not going to ever have a complete football team. But when you rebuild, be good at something. Well, this should be a top 5 run defense. So they're going to be good at something right away.
When you have 3 consecutive first-round picks or 3 consecutive seasons in which you take D linemen with first-round picks, throwing a linebacker there as well, you have to think that would be the one thing that you can pinpoint as a strength on this defense. Alex Flanagan, Charlie Casserly, Andrew Siciliano. Charlie, flip if we could to the offensive side. Brian Hoyer, your thoughts in his year as a starter? And it may only be a year, maybe more, depends on how well he plays.
Well, first of all, he knows Kyle Shanahan's system, and Kyle's a very creative and bright offensive coach. He had him in Cleveland. However, When they tried to give him the job in Cleveland, he couldn't keep the job. Why? He is smart. He's a leader. He knows where to go with the ball, but accuracy just betrayed him the longer he played. So the more you saw him, almost the worse he got. So he's not the long-range solution. What he can do is he can help get the offense installed this year. I think what he can do also is be a leader on this football team. Those are his positives. The world is watching Kirk Cousins and San Francisco next year. That could be the untold story of this year's training camp. Is this the reason Cousins didn't negotiate this year with the Redskins? And we know Kyle was there when they drafted him, and his dad love Cousins. So that could be the quarterback of the future next year.
Listen, we're looking way down the line here, and Alex, jump back in here on the quarterback situation if you want. Many people assume the Niners are going to be in the running for a quarterback, that this is going to be a top 10 pick again next year. I know John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan don't want to hear that. They won, and they've really turned over this roster to start winning now. But it is, and I'll use NBA parlance here, Alex, it is a process.
Yeah, definitely. I think I said earlier, they're kind of tempering their expectations because they know they have a lot of work. But Charlie, I will tell you, Brian Hoyer has impressed a lot of people here. Remember, this is his first time really getting to be officially the starter, and I think he gets a full off season now. He's not necessarily battling for that position because he kind of goes in as the solidified starter, and I think that has helped his confidence just tremendously. He's throwing really well here. He's embracing the opportunity to come in to be the leader. It's an opportunity that he hasn't had yet, and he's really maximizing it. Remember, Johnny Manziel came around to kind of knock him out of that position, and the focus went to Johnny Manziel. Well, now here he's the guy, and he has the support. I was talking to one of the local beat writers who was saying that they weren't able to see a lot of practice during the OTAs, and so they were kind of questioning whether or not Brian Hoyer would be able to throw the vertical ball, throw it accurately, fit into Kyle Shanahan's system. We know that he likes to get the ball down the field. How would Brian Hoyer do it that? Well, they said that once they got here to training camp and they've been able to watch him practice, that they've really been impressed by how accurate he is and what a strong arm he has. And he has hit consistently throughout these practices, thrown the long ball and hit receivers in that long ball game. So I think it'll be interesting to just kind of, I think sometimes the mental intangibles of coming in and knowing that you're not fighting for your job and you have the support of a head coach that wants you to do well and is kind of looking at you and evaluating you and calling plays that are based on your strength. So I think, it's been interesting to watch Brian Hoyer from the time that they brought him here and just how much he's grown. Certainly a veteran guy, but he's still growing. And then I think he has some interesting pieces that they've put around him. Pierre Garçon is going to be just a tough, dependable, reliable receiver. And then Marquise Goodwin, who they picked out of Buffalo, has been also very impressive here. As you guys know, a track and field star, and I think he has been really impressive. So I think they've got some nice depth at wide receiver, and then also let's not forget about the running back that certainly is always a quarterback's best friend, right? And Carlos Hyde. Kyle Shanahan telling me a little bit earlier today that Carlos Hyde has been really impressive. I forget exactly how he put it, but basically he's been the most impressive player for Kyle Shanahan so far throughout camp. A couple notes, you guys mentioned Ahmad Brooks. There's a couple veteran guys today. Ahmad, one of those guys that has the day off, as does running back Tim